Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're diving deep into the latest headlines from India, a nation absolutely buzzing with activity across so many critical fronts.
Hmm.
This isn't just a collection of news items. It's really a dynamic snapshot of a country in constant motion.
Hmm.
From the strategic plays on the cricket pitch to high-stakes global diplomacy and, well, virtually everything in between.
It's truly striking here is how these seemingly disparate news items, whether it's a cricket score, an ambitious infrastructure plan, a controversial parliamentary debate, or a key diplomatic visit, they all offer crucial, interconnected insights into India's current trajectory.
Right.
Our mission today is to go beyond the surface, to extract the most important nuggets of knowledge from these sources. We want to help you understand not just what happened, but why it matters, what the deeper implications are, and how it all fits into the larger narrative of India's evolving role in the world.
Exactly. So whether you're just catching up on current affairs, maybe preparing for a critical discussion, or simply immensely curious about one of the world's most dynamic nations, get ready for a deep dive that will leave you truly well-informed, with hopefully surprising facts, and those satisfying aha moments that tie everything together. To kick things off, let's zoom in on the ambitious vision for India's economic future, a vision being actively spearheaded by Union Minister Nitin Gadkari. This isn't just talk, it's a strategic blueprint, and it's where we start to see some truly intriguing developments.
Union Minister Nitin Gadkari has been exceptionally clear. He's saying robust, world-class infrastructure is absolutely central, foundational even, to India's goal of becoming the world's third largest economy.
Okay.
And this isn't merely about economic ranking. It's intrinsically linked to the much broader overarching national vision of Viksit Bharat, which translates to developed India by the year 2047. In a revealing interview with Mint, Gadkari laid out a detailed roadmap. He explained that infrastructure development isn't just a hefty expense on the national balance sheet.
Right.
It's conceived as a direct and powerful catalyst for growth. He projects that this development will unlock massive capital investments, ignite industrial growth across numerous sectors, and critically, generate millions of new jobs. Furthermore, it's explicitly designed to significantly boost India's exports, all contributing directly to the audacious target of the country's GDP surpassing $5 trillion.
That's an enormous goal, a $5 trillion GDP. So for the everyday person listening, how does building more roads, expanding highways, improving connectivity, how does that actually translate into that number? And, ultimately a truly developed India by 2047, what's the direct impact on their lives?
Well, placing this in broader context, the ruling NDA government, the National Democratic Alliance Coalition, has undeniably prioritized these expansive networks, roads, highways, digital connectivity, other transport arteries, as a fundamental driver for economic expansion. The core belief, it seems, is that immensely improved connectivity will serve as a powerful magnet
Okay, a magnet
for attracting both global foreign direct investment and domestic capital. This, in turn, is expected to enable the establishment and scaling up of large-scale industrial projects across a multitude of sectors, from high-tech manufacturing to robust service industries. And this creates a powerful multiplier effect that ripples through the economy. What's perhaps less intuitive, but equally important, is its impact beyond just urban centers. These projects are strategically designed to promote rural-urban integration. So ensuring that economic benefits are not concentrated solely in cities, but spread more inclusively to reach vast rural populations. It's truly about building the foundational backbone necessary for sustained, equitable growth across the entire nation.
Connecting producers to markets, people to opportunities, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
And it's not just about pouring more concrete, is it? Gadkari also seems to be highlighting some rather innovative approaches, particularly concerning funding and environmental sustainability. What exactly are those novel aspects?
Indeed. He pointed to ongoing concerted efforts to streamline logistics across the country, which in turn will significantly lower transportation costs for businesses and, by extension, consumers. There is also a strong, deliberate push to foster more public-private partnerships, PPPs, leveraging the efficiency and capital of the private sector alongside the government's strategic vision.
Makes sense.
But what's particularly notable, and really speaks to a forward-thinking approach, is the profound emphasis on environmental sustainability integrated directly into construction practices.
How so?
Well, this includes actively incorporating green technologies in highway construction, like using waste materials, plastic, fly ash, promoting cold mix technology to cut energy use. There's also a strategic focus on expanding electric vehicle infrastructure infrastructure, nationwide charging stations, battery swapping facilities,
Okay.
and, crucially, encouraging the widespread adoption of alternative fuels like green hydrogen and bio-CNG to drastically reduce carbon emissions from the transport sector. It's a sophisticated balance, really, driving aggressive economic growth while simultaneously upholding a strong commitment to ecological responsibility, aiming for a truly green infrastructure revolution.
And for our listener, there's even a way to potentially get involved directly in this ambitious national vision, isn't there? It sounds like more than just a government initiative.
Well, this prompts a vital question about how such massive long-term projects are funded without placing an undue burden solely on the public exchequer. I mean, without relying just on taxpayer money or government funds.
Right.
Gadkari specifically extended an invitation to retail investors, that's you and me, the individual investors, to actively participate in infrastructure-focused investment instruments. These are known as INVITs, or Infrastructure Investment Trusts.
INVITs. Okay. How do they work?
The intriguing aspect here is that these trusts offer returns directly linked to the toll revenues generated from these newly built or upgraded highways.
Ah, interesting.
So this innovative model serves multiple purposes. It democratizes infrastructure investment, allowing everyday citizens to directly contribute to and benefit from the nation's growth. You're literally investing in the roads you drive on.
Huh.
Crucially, it also helps raise significant additional resources, providing a new stream of funding without increasing the national debt or, as Gadkari put it, burdening the public exchequer. In essence, he portrays infrastructure not just as a practical tool for India's transformation, but also as a powerful symbol of its ambitious journey towards becoming a developed nation, fostering a sense of collective ownership.
Okay, shifting gears now. From India's economic blueprints, let's turn to the vibrant, often, well, let's face it, tumultuous political arena. A lot is certainly brewing as Parliament prepares for its monsoon session. It feels like the stage is set for some significant debates.
India's Parliament's monsoon session is officially scheduled to run from July 21 to August 21, 2025. It's worth noting there won't be any sittings on August 13 and 14, understandably, due to Independence Day celebrations, which is a huge national holiday.
Of course.
Union Minister Kiran Rijiju announced these dates via social media, confirming that both the Lok Sabha, the lower house, and the Rajya Sabha, the upper house, will commence proceedings at 11 a.m. on the opening day. This session is particularly anticipated because it marks the first full parliamentary gathering after a 3-month recess, and it's widely expected to feature intense political discussions and critical debates that have been simmering.
Given that 3-month recess, what makes this particular session so anticipated? Especially considering the opposition's recent actions and calls for an earlier sitting.
What's truly striking here is precisely the high level of anticipation for intense political discussions. Opposition parties, which have formed a formidable coalition of 16 different groups, had earlier taken a significant step. They petitioned Prime Minister Narendra Modi for an urgent, immediate parliamentary sitting.
An urgent sitting. Why?
It wasn't for just any reason. It was specifically to address what they deemed pressing national security concerns. These concerns stemmed directly from the horrific terror attack in Pahalgam, which caused significant public outcry, and the subsequent retaliatory offensive, which the government termed Operation Sindoor.
Operation Sindoor.
Right. While their request for an immediate special session was ultimately denied by the government, it was affirmed that these critical matters could and would be raised for debate during the scheduled monsoon session. So it sets the stage for a fiery exchange.
Operation Sindoor sounds like a highly sensitive and significant military action. Can you elaborate on what it is and what specific questions or demands the opposition parties are likely to raise during the session?
Operation Sindoor is officially described as a retaliatory offensive. It was specifically launched in direct response to the Pahalgam terror attack, and its targets were 9 identified terror camps located across Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. The opposition is clearly expected to press for very detailed debates on these issues during the upcoming session. They are citing widespread public concern and emphasizing the critical need for comprehensive parliamentary scrutiny. Scrutiny regarding Operation Sindoor's planning, its execution, and importantly, its broader diplomatic implications, particularly how it might impact India's relationships with neighboring countries and international perceptions.
Right.
This entire situation truly highlights the rising national and geopolitical tensions. Moreover, it underscores the vital role of Parliament as a crucial forum for demanding accountability from the government, ensuring transparency, and actively shaping public perception on matters of national security. It's a moment where domestic politics and foreign policy will collide head-on.
From national security debates in Parliament to a very local but equally politically charged issue. Let's unpack the controversy surrounding the annual Kanwar Yatra pilgrimage. This sounds like it escalated quickly.
A significant political storm has indeed erupted over specific identity verification rules implemented during the annual Kanwar Yatra pilgrimage. Both the Uttar Pradesh and Uttarakhand state governments have mandated that all food vendors and shop owners operating along the extensive pilgrimage route must visibly display their names, official identification documents, and valid licenses.
Okay, on the surface, maybe sounds procedural.
Well, the authorities behind this directive claim the move is simply intended to uphold the sanctity and ensure the transparency of this massive religious event. However, as we've seen, it quickly became a lightning rod for broader political and social tensions, particularly concerning civil liberties and the role of private actors in public spaces.
This sounds like a standard regulatory measure, one might think, but it clearly escalated far beyond that. What intensified the controversy and what were the accusations being thrown around?
It intensified significantly following very pointed remarks made by Samajwadi Party leader St. Hassan. He drew a stark and controversial comparison.
What did he say?
He likened unauthorized religious identity checks being carried out by civilians to outright terrorist behavior. He even specifically referenced the Pahalgam attack we just discussed to underscore the gravity of his concern about lawlessness. Hassan unequivocally condemned these actions, questioning publicly who gave these civilians the right to inspect shops or force people to remove clothing to check religion. While he stated he supported the government's initial directive for vendors to display IDs, he adamantly insisted that enforcement should rest solely and exclusively with trained law enforcement agencies, not with private groups or individuals, to prevent vigilantism.
So this isn't just about simple IT checks. It's about who's doing the checking and, as you said, the underlying social and political tensions being exposed. What does this reveal about governance ethics in India right now?
Precisely. The opposition, represented strongly by figures like Hassan, is accusing certain right-wing organizations of engaging in vigilantism and actively undermining fundamental civil liberties under the guise of these rules.
And the other side?
In stark contrast, the ruling BJP defends the policy, asserting it is merely designed to promote transparency and maintain order during a large-scale public event that draws millions. Hassan went further, warning vehemently against the politicization of religious practices for narrow electoral gain, arguing that such vigilantism inherently spreads fear and deepens social division within communities rather than fostering harmony. He also urged media outlets to act responsibly in their coverage, emphasizing that their role should be to promote communal harmony rather than amplify discord and division, which can inflame tensions. This situation truly raises an important question about governance ethics, the sensitive nature of religious practices in a diverse society, and the appropriate balance between robust policy enforcement by state actors and the protection of civil rights. It's making it a current flashpoint for significant political and legal discourse in India. It underscores the delicate line authorities must walk in a pluralistic society.
Okay, from domestic political flashpoints, let's pivot to India's burgeoning presence on the global stage. We have a couple of interesting headlines that reveal different facets of its international engagement, starting with Prime Minister Modi's recent visit to Ghana.
India and Ghana have officially elevated their bilateral ties to what they're now calling a comprehensive partnership.
Comprehensive partnership, okay.
This significant upgrade followed wide-ranging talks between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President John Dramani Mahama. This particular visit marked Modi's first time in Ghana as part of a broader five-nation tour, during which he very clearly emphasized India's role not just as a distant partner, but as a close co-traveler in Ghana's ongoing development journey.
A co-traveler. Interesting phrasing.
Right. It suggests a deeper, more collaborative engagement, moving beyond traditional donor-recipient dynamics to one of mutual growth and shared responsibility, particularly within the context of South-South cooperation.
A comprehensive partnership sounds incredibly significant. What were the tangible outcomes? The shared commitments from this visit? What were the key areas of collaboration?
What's truly fascinating here is the sheer ambition and breadth of the outcomes. Both leaders set an explicit and ambitious goal to double bilateral trade between their two nations over the next 5 years.
Double trade in 5 years.
Yeah. To facilitate this, they also signed 4 concrete agreements covering diverse sectors, including important and often overlooked areas like culture and traditional medicine. This really underscores a growing emphasis on holistic cooperation, moving beyond just traditional trade and investment.
Okay.
Beyond economic ties, Modi and Mahama affirmed a powerful shared stance against terrorism, unequivocally labeling it a threat to all of humanity. And they pledged significantly enhanced cooperation in combating this menace through intelligence sharing and coordinated efforts.
And defense, security.
Yes, in the crucial realm of defense and security, they committed to what they termed security through solidarity, with concrete plans to boost collaboration in training armed forces, enhancing maritime security, facilitating defense supplies, and strengthening cybersecurity, recognizing the multidimensional nature of modern security threats.
And this visit also ties into broader global issues, doesn't it? Beyond just bilateral ties, it seems to reflect India's wider foreign policy approach.
Yes, absolutely. During their discussions, both leaders expressed deep concern over ongoing global conflicts in regions such as West Asia and Europe. They collectively emphasized the critical need for diplomacy and dialogue as the only viable and sustainable solutions to these complex international disputes.
Which echoes.
It echoes Prime Minister Modi's earlier widely publicized call for this era to be not the era of war. Modi's visit, therefore, serves as a clear reflection of India's strategic outreach toward the African continent. The overarching aim is to foster much deeper relations through a multifaceted approach encompassing economic, security, and cultural initiatives. This elevation of ties with Ghana specifically signals India's broader and deliberate intent to engage more closely with African nations, viewing them as genuine partners in progress and underscoring mutual respect and shared global values. It's part of India's push for a more multipolar world order.
Now, speaking of Prime Minister Modi's five-nation tour, it didn't go uncommented upon back home. Let's unpack Congress MP Jairam Ramesh's pointed super premium frequent flyer PM remarks. It seems like more than just a simple political jab.
Congress MP Jairam Ramesh indeed took a very pointed swipe at Prime Minister Narendra Modi's five-nation tour. He famously labeled him the super premium frequent flyer PM in a social media post, a phrase designed to be both catchy and critical. His remarks, predictably, sparked immediate political debate, surfacing just as Modi commenced his extensive visit with Ghana on July 2. Ramesh's core allegation was that the prime minister was essentially evading pressing domestic issues by focusing so heavily on foreign engagements. But what makes his critique particularly interesting is that he used the occasion not just for political critique, but also to reflect deeply on the rich historical ties that bind India and Ghana.
That's a fascinating layer to add to a contemporary political critique. How exactly did Ramesh connect this modern foreign policy to the historical ties between India and Ghana? What was his argument?
Well, this prompts a vital question about balancing contemporary foreign policy with rich historical context. Ramesh specifically highlighted the profound ideological and personal friendship that existed between Ghana's revered founding leader, Kwame Nkrumah, and India's first prime minister, Jawaharlal Nehru.
Nehru and Nkrumah.
Right. Their bond, as he noted, began well before Ghana's independence in 1957, laying a very strong foundation for enduring bilateral relations based on shared anti-colonial struggles and non-alignment. He even pointed out a tangible symbol of this historical connection. A street in Accra, Ghana's capital, where the Indian embassy is located, is proudly named after Nehru.
Ah, okay.
Similarly, Delhi's diplomatic enclave features a prominent road honoring Nkrumah, showcasing a reciprocal recognition of their shared legacy and deep respect. Ramesh was essentially suggesting that true partnership goes beyond mere photo ops, built on a foundation of historical solidarity.
That's a tangible link. Did he give any other specific examples to illustrate the depth of their historical connection and the kind of exchange that characterized those early years?
Yes, he elaborated further, recalling Nkrumah's extensive state visit to India, which took place from December 1958 to January 1959.
A long visit.
It wasn't just a brief stop. It included significant visits to New Delhi, Mumbai, Agra, Bengaluru, and Mysuru. Ramesh specifically underscored the depth of this early India-Ghana engagement by mentioning that Nkrumah reportedly spent 5 days in Karnataka alone. During that comprehensive trip, the Ghanaian leader toured several key institutions, including the National Dairy Research Institute and the Indian Institute of Science.
So, real substance.
Exactly. These visits directly reflected a robust exchange of ideas and developmental models between the two burgeoning nations, both newly independent and committed to nation building. Ramesh's commentary, therefore, consciously sought to juxtapose Prime Minister Modi's contemporary foreign outreach with this powerful historical camaraderie. Ultimately, his critique aimed to emphasize the crucial aspect of domestic political accountability amid broader, ongoing discussions on how to effectively balance an active international diplomacy agenda with urgent national governance priorities, particularly in a developing democracy.
From high-level diplomacy to critical international security operations, let's shift gears to Operation Medmax and how India played a crucial, almost cinematic role in dismantling a global drug cartel.
Union Home Minister Amit Shah recently praised the Narcotics Control Bureau, or NCB, for a truly remarkable achievement, dismantling a massive global pharmaceutical drug cartel through what they've termed Operation Medmax.
Operation Medmax.
Yeah. This was an incredibly complex and wide-ranging operation that spanned 4 continents and involved active collaboration across more than 10 countries. The results were significant. It led to 8 arrests directly linked to the syndicate and the seizure of 48 illicit consignments of drugs, prompting coordinated international raids in the U.S., Australia, and various European nations. It's a testament to the evolving nature of international law enforcement cooperation.
This sounds like something straight out of a movie. How did such a complex international operation even begin, especially one spanning so many countries and continents? What was the initial breakthrough?
What's truly fascinating here is its surprisingly unassuming origin. The entire drug syndicate was operating with a high degree of sophistication,
How so?
utilizing encrypted messaging applications for communication, making and receiving cryptocurrency payments to evade traditional financial tracking, and employing anonymous dropshipping methods to traffic controlled medicines illegally from India to various global destinations. The breakthrough came from what began as a routine vehicle check near Mundi House in Delhi.
A routine check.
Yeah. During this check, 2 individuals who were found to be B Pharma graduates, meaning they had pharmaceutical science degrees, giving them specialized knowledge, were apprehended with 3.7 kilograms of tramadol tablets, a powerful opioid painkiller often diverted for illicit use.
Okay.
Under interrogation, they revealed their involvement in a much broader international trafficking network, which was cunningly operating through what appeared to be a legitimate Indian B2B platform.
And that initial lead just snowballed into something massive across continents. It seems incredible how a local stop could unravel such a global network.
Exactly. That initial lead proved to be the crucial thread. Further, extensive probes led to more arrests in different parts of India, Delhi, Roorkee, Udupi. These investigations uncovered a hidden call center solely dedicated to handling overseas orders for the illicit drugs, acting as the nerve center.
A call center for drugs.
Effectively, yes. The data recovered from this call center was staggering, indicating at least 50 shipments have been dispatched globally, 29 to the U.S., 18 to Australia, and 1 each to Spain, Estonia, and Switzerland. These vital insights were then shared with international partners, enabling Interpol and various foreign agencies to execute coordinated raids abroad.
So international cooperation was key.
Absolutely. U.S. officials arrested a reshipper in Alabama and seized over 17,000 tablets. Australian authorities shut down an illegal pill-making facility. The U.S. Embassy in India publicly thanked Indian authorities for their critical role. The cartel's sophisticated structure involved crypto-based payments with complex, layered commissions. They even strategically groomed repeat buyers to become logistics partners, expanding their network covertly. Crucially, the syndicate's kingpin has now been located in the UAE, and Indian agencies are actively collaborating internationally for his apprehension. This entire operation highlights a critical and evolving shift in how transnational drug crimes are being tackled, especially those using digital ecosystems and cryptocurrencies to evade detection. It necessitates a new level of global law enforcement cooperation.
Now, while India is cracking down on crime globally, it's also navigating some rising tensions with a major neighbor, China. And this friction is now directly impacting India's manufacturing sector. What's happening on the ground?
What we're seeing is a significant disruption in India's manufacturing sector, directly stemming from escalating tensions between India and China. Beijing has initiated a series of actions causing considerable friction.
Like what?
This includes delaying critical machinery deliveries essential for Indian factories and, more notably, recalling Chinese engineers from Indian manufacturing plants. This affects major players, including Apple's contract manufacturer, Foxconn, which is a huge deal for India's burgeoning electronics assembly sector.
Right.
Concurrently, China has also imposed significant export restrictions on magnets, which are absolutely crucial components for India's burgeoning automobile and electronics industries, further tightening the screws on India's supply chains.
This sounds like a targeted disruption, almost a strategic move. How significant are these Chinese engineers to Indian factories? And what's the immediate impact, particularly on something as high profile as iPhone manufacturing?
Well, if we place this in broader context, while these Chinese engineers might comprise less than 1% of the total staff at these facilities, their role is disproportionately vital. They are absolutely essential to managing complex production processes, installing and maintaining specialized machinery, maintaining stringent quality control, especially in high-precision manufacturing like electronics.
So their absence is felt.
Definitely. Their sudden withdrawal directly threatens iPhone manufacturing schedules, which rely heavily on their expertise. Foxconn's operations in Tamil Nadu and Karnataka, where iPhones are assembled, are reportedly facing massive pressure as Chinese personnel exit per government orders. Both Apple and Foxconn have reportedly had to scramble, tapping resources from other international locations or rapidly training local staff to compensate. Similar concerns are now arising at factories operated by major Chinese phone makers like Oppo and Vivo, showcasing the widespread impact across the electronics manufacturing landscape in India. It's a precise application of economic leverage.
Is there a clear sense of why China is doing this? Is it purely economic, or are there deeper geopolitical motivations at play, especially given broader strategic shifts in global supply chains?
Indian officials are definitely suggesting these actions may be retaliatory. It's widely believed to be a response to China's perceived difficulties in obtaining business visas for its personnel in India.
Ah, tit for tat, perhaps.
Possibly. Indicating that dynamic following India's stricter scrutiny of Chinese business operations, industry insiders are openly warning that the situation is rapidly escalating and may very well require formal government intervention to avoid further, more severe disruption, especially given that Apple's contribution to India's export portfolio has grown so significantly as companies seek to diversify away from China.
Right, the diversification trend.
Exactly. Historically, China has shown a pattern of blocking equipment destined for Indian facilities, particularly when those operations were expanding or relocating away from China. These recent developments come at a crucial time, as many global companies are actively seeking to diversify their supply chains and scale up operations in India, often directly at the expense of growing their presence in China. The Indian government is monitoring the situation extremely closely, navigating a complex environment of rising strategic tensions and deeply entrenched economic interdependence. There are indeed concerns this could escalate into a broader crisis if further trade restrictions are imposed, potentially impacting India's Make in India ambitions. In response, industry bodies are even planning to submit a detailed report to the government, flagging these potential risks and calling for urgent attention to this subtle but powerful form of economic warfare.
Speaking of international relations and economic friction, India's trade negotiations with the United States are hitting some major roadblocks, especially when it comes to agriculture. It sounds like India is drawing some very firm red lines here.
India's trade negotiations with the United States are indeed facing four very major roadblocks. These are specifically centered around market access for U.S. agricultural products, corn, ethanol, soybean, and dairy products.
Corn, ethanol, soybean, dairy.
Okay. In these areas, India is maintaining very firm red lines, primarily to protect its vast domestic agriculture sector and the livelihoods of millions of farmers. The U.S. naturally seeks greater market access for its agricultural exports into India, a massive market. However, India is strongly resisting these demands.
Why the resistance?
Largely due to concerns over genetically modified, or GM, crops and its broader economic strategy of self-reliance and domestic production, which prioritizes local farmers.
Four key areas where India is drawing a firm line. Let's break down each one. What are the specific sticking points for corn and ethanol, and what are the internal pressures India faces?
Okay, for corn, India currently imposes a 15% duty on imports up to 0.5 million tons and maintains a complete ban on genetically modified varieties, citing food safety and environmental concerns. Now, there is a proposal under consideration to allow GM corn exclusively for ethanol production. might seem like a pragmatic compromise,
Well
but
then,
this particular proposal is facing significant opposition from various quarters. Sugar mills, for instance, fear that allowing GM corn for ethanol could displace sugarcane as the primary feedstock in India's ambitious ethanol-blended petrol program, directly impacting their profitability. There's also considerable political pushback anticipated from maize-producing states whose farmers could be negatively impacted by cheaper imports.
right, political sensitivities.
Then there's ethanol itself. While India does import ethanol for non-fuel industrial uses, it strictly prohibits imports for fuel blending, which is a major point of contention for the U.S. The U.S., being the world's largest ethanol exporter, is very keen to penetrate this market. However, allowing fuel ethanol imports could fundamentally undercut India's overarching objective to reduce fuel dependence, support domestic agriculture, and achieve energy independence, particularly for its sugarcane growers, who are a significant political constituency.
And what about soybeans and dairy? These often have their own unique complexities and sensitivities in trade talks, don't they?
You're absolutely right. With soybean, India permits the import of GM soybean oil, but maintains a ban on whole GM beans and de-oiled cake.
Why distinct?
Primarily due to concerns over residual GM protein in those products and potentially impacting local seed varieties. There's another politically sensitive proposal to import GM beans specifically for oil extraction, with the intention of then exporting the de-oiled cake, creating a value chain. This is particularly contentious because soybean is a widely grown crop in several BJP-led states, and farmers there are already grappling with price pressures, making any policy that could further depress prices or introduce GM crops highly sensitive.
Okay. And dairy. Always tricky.
Finally, dairy. India levies steep tariffs on imported dairy products and mandates extremely stringent standards, often based on deep-seated cultural and religious norms that prioritize the sanctity of cows and local dairy farming practices. While India is highly unlikely to concede on dairy access due to these cultural, religious, and economic sensitivities, there's a lurking fear that the U.S. might use its dairy access demands as leverage to extract concessions from India on other, perhaps less sensitive, commodities. So these agricultural red lines, therefore, reflect a complex and delicate blend of economic protectionism, internal political realities, and deeply ingrained public sentiment, all playing out amid broader strategic trade negotiations where India seeks to protect its national interests and its large agricultural population.
From trade negotiations to a deeply sensitive geopolitical and religious issue, the Dalai Lama's succession has emerged as a potential fault line in India-China relations, especially with the current Dalai Lama's recent statements.
The 14th Dalai Lama recently made a very significant announcement that only his trust would guide the complex process of his succession, explicitly ruling out any role for the Chinese government.
A clear statement.
Yes. This declaration has immediately emerged as a major potential fault line in the already complex India-China relations. Beijing's response was swift and sharp, insisting that the reincarnation process must strictly follow Chinese laws and traditions. This includes the controversial Golden Urn lottery system.
The Golden Urn system.
Yes, a traditional but often disputed method historically used to select high lamas, which China has controversially appropriated as a means of asserting control. And critically, it requires central government approval, a process Beijing controversially claims dates back to 1792, asserting historical precedent for its involvement.
So the Dalai Lama has made his position clear, essentially asserting religious autonomy, but China is pushing back hard, viewing it as a political issue. What's India's official stance, especially given it's home to the Tibetan government in exile?
India has, so far, remained officially silent on this highly sensitive matter, carefully navigating its diplomatic position.
And the U.S.?
In contrast, the U.S. has adopted a clear position, declaring reincarnation a purely religious matter and explicitly opposing state intervention in the process, aligning with the Dalai Lama's stance. Beijing's ambassador to India, for his part, reiterated China's stance, stating that no wise leader or friendly country should challenge China's historical and claimed role in the succession, essentially a veiled warning to India. However, he did note that India could choose to stay neutral without necessarily endorsing Beijing's pick for the next Dalai Lama. This entire issue holds significant potential to disrupt the improving bilateral ties between India and China, which have, ironically, shown signs of recovery over the past 9 months after a period of intense strain following border clashes.
This sounds like it could lead to a real diplomatic headache, possibly even a dual succession, where two different individuals are recognized as the next Dalai Lama. What are the historical precedents, and what would it mean for India?
Exactly. Experts are indeed warning that Beijing's very likely appointment of its own chosen successor may very well prompt a dual succession, meaning two individuals simultaneously claiming the title of the Dalai Lama, one recognized by the Tibetan Buddhist community and another by Beijing.
That would be incredibly difficult for India.
Undoubtedly. This scenario would test New Delhi's delicate diplomatic stance to its absolute limits as India hosts the exiled Tibetan leadership and millions of Tibetans. Historical sensitivities on this issue run incredibly deep. For instance, the Doklam standoff in 2017, a major military confrontation, occurred just months after the current Dalai Lama's controversial visit to Arunachal Pradesh, a region China vehemently claims as its own.
Right, the Arunachal Pradesh visit.
It's important to remember that since the Dalai Lama ceded his political authority in 2011 to the India-based Tibetan government in exile, China has consistently continued to view his religious actions, including those related to succession, as inherently politically charged, seeing them as a challenge to its sovereignty over Tibet. The entire succession debate fundamentally pits religious freedom against state control and deeply held spiritual tradition against acute geopolitical interests. This is a long-drawn process, potentially taking years, and it could very well become a significant flashpoint for sovereignty, complex diplomacy, and critical issues of cultural autonomy. With India's eventual position, whether silent, neutral, or vocal, being closely watched on the global stage.
Okay, shifting focus now to public health. There's been a significant and sensitive discussion recently around COVID-19 vaccinations and reports of sudden deaths. The Union Health Ministry has stepped in to provide some crucial clarification amidst rising public concern.
The Union Health Ministry of India recently issued a very clear and emphatic rebuttal to claims linking COVID-19 vaccinations to sudden deaths. Their clarification specifically cited findings from comprehensive studies conducted by two of India's premier medical research institutions, the Indian Council of Medical Research, ICMR, and the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, AIIMS.
Okay, ICMR and AIIMS, what do they find?
These comprehensive studies, according to the ministry, found no direct correlation between the vaccines administered and these fatalities. Instead, they attributed sudden cardiac deaths to a range of other factors, including underlying genetics, specific lifestyle choices, pre-existing health conditions that may have gone undiagnosed, and importantly, lingering post-COVID complications that can infect cardiovascular health.
This official statement came after some rather controversial remarks from a prominent political figure. What prompted this clarification from the Health Ministry, and what was the nature of the concerns that triggered it?
It followed directly after Karnataka Chief Minister Siddaramaiah made some rather controversial remarks himself. He had publicly suggested a potential link between the vaccine approval process and a recent spike in heart attacks observed in his state's Hassan district, citing anecdotal evidence and public apprehension.
So he raised a concern publicly.
Yes. Reacting to his concerns, the Karnataka government acted swiftly, forming an expert committee specifically tasked to investigate this spike in cardiac deaths. This panel is being led by Dr. Ravindranath, director of the prestigious Jayadeva Institute of Cardiovascular Sciences and Research, a leading cardiac institute, and they have been instructed to submit their findings within a concise 10-day time frame, indicating the urgency and political sensitivity.
Right. Shows how quickly things can move.
Exactly. This highlights the challenge of balancing public concern with scientific evidence, especially when high-profile figures weigh in.
So we have a clear statement from the Union Health Ministry and an investigation initiated by the Karnataka government. What's the broader medical consensus on these sudden cardiac events, especially differentiating between correlation and causation in such complex health situations?
Well, Dr. Amit Bhushan Sharma, a prominent cardiologist from Gurugram's Perez Health, has strongly emphasized that the vast majority of cases involving sudden cardiac arrest stem from pre-existing or underlying conditions.
Such as?
These can include undiagnosed coronary artery disease, which affects the heart's blood supply, or inherited heart disorders that make individuals predisposed. Beyond medical conditions, lifestyle choices also play a critical role. High stress levels, smoking, consistently poor dietary habits, a significant lack of regular physical activity, all contribute to cardiovascular risk. While Chief Minister Siddaramaiah did cite some international studies that he believed implied possible connections between vaccines and increased heart attack rates, the center, meaning the Union Health Ministry, has unequivocally reiterated that India's own extensive domestic health research, based on large-scale data and rigorous methodologies, does not support such conclusions.
So the official stance is clear.
Very clear. The government has urged extreme caution in interpreting data, particularly from less robust or isolated studies, and has emphatically stressed that vaccination remains a critical and essential tool in effectively managing public health, particularly in preventing severe COVID-19 outcomes. This ongoing debate truly reflects a rising public anxiety over various health events occurring in the post-COVID era, and it fundamentally underscores the crucial need for scientifically grounded communication amidst rampant speculation. It's about striking that delicate balance between full transparency and providing evidence-based reassurance to preserve public trust in essential vaccination campaigns, ensuring public health policies are guided by robust science.
Finally, let's lighten the mood a bit and turn our attention to the action on the cricket field. India's test match against England at Edgbaston sounds like it was quite a nail-biter on day one, especially with some key team decisions.
Indeed it was. India ended day one of the second test against England at Edgbaston with a strong total of 310 runs for the loss of 5 wickets.
310 for 5. Solid start.
Very solid. This commanding position was largely thanks to a resilient and masterful century from Captain Shubman Gill. He scored an unbeaten 114 off 199 balls, truly anchoring the innings. This performance came amid significant mounting pressure over specific team selection decisions, especially the highly discussed and somewhat controversial choice to rest star pacer Jasprit Bumrah.
Resting Bumrah. That's big news.
Huge news. It set a fascinating tone for the rest of the match, particularly given India's historical record at Edgbaston.
The century from the captain is huge, providing both runs and leadership. But you mentioned pressure over team selection. What was that about, and how did it influence India's lineup for this crucial match?
Yes. Gill's century, which was his 7th in Test cricket, and notably his slowest to date, was absolutely crucial in setting India's strong position. Showcased a maturity under pressure.
The slowest. Interesting.
Yeah, shows the conditions, perhaps, or the situation. But there was indeed considerable pressure surrounding the team selection, primarily due to the decision to rest Jasprit Bumrah because of ongoing back concerns. For a bowler of his caliber, that's always a major talking point.
Right.
As a result, India's lineup featured 3 significant changes from the previous match, aiming to bolster the batting depth and offer different bowling options. Nitish Kumar Reddy, Washington Sundar, and Akash Deep were all brought in. England, having won the toss and opted to bowl first on a pitch that offered some early assistance, saw some early promise as KL Rahul fell cheaply and Karun Nair was dismissed for 31 just before lunch. Gave them some early momentum.
And it seems like young opener Yashasvi Jaiswal was on the cusp of another big score too, continuing his impressive form this series. How did England manage to break India's partnerships throughout the day?
He was. Jaiswal appeared perfectly poised for yet another century, continuing his strong form. But he was unfortunately caught behind off England's captain Ben Stokes for a very well-made 87. Denied him a second 100 of the series.
Agonizingly close.
Very close. Wicketkeeper Rishabh Pant contributed a brisk 25, including a powerful 6 that signaled his aggressive intent, but he too was soon dismissed by spinner Shoaib Bashir. Nitish Kumar Reddy's brief stay ended with an incisive delivery from Chris Woakes, who managed to take 2 wickets on what he himself called a tiring day for the bowlers, indicating the hard work required.
So wickets did fall.
They did. But after these dismissals, Captain Gill and the experienced all-rounder Ravindra Jadeja, who finished the day on a resilient 41 not out, then effectively steadied the innings. They forged a crucial 99-run partnership, successfully fending off England's hopes of triggering another lower-order collapse, which had been a key factor in the first test.
That partnership was key then.
Absolutely vital. Gill's magnificent century was ultimately capped with 2 sweeping boundaries off Joe Root. A frustrating end for England, who were also left rueing 2 very close poundable review calls that went in India's favor via umpire's call.
Umpire's call. Always debated.
Always. It means the on-field umpire's original judgment stands because the technology shows the outcome was too marginal to overturn. Historically, India is still seeking its first ever test win at Edgbaston, a venue where they've often struggled. So this strong start is particularly significant for their aspirations in this pivotal match. Reflects a strategic shift towards resilience and big partnerships.
Wow, what a journey through today's headlines, from the ambition of a $5 trillion economy driven by infrastructure to the strategic plays on the cricket field and the complex dance of international relations. It's abundantly clear India is a nation constantly in motion, navigating a truly multifaceted landscape.
Placing this in broader context, All these stories, from the massive infrastructure drive to the global drug bust and the nuanced debates over trade, identity, geopolitical influence, they highlight India's multifaceted journey. As it navigates complex internal aspirations and formidable external pressures on its path to global leadership, it's a compelling reflection of the profound interconnectedness of seemingly distinct events, all contributing to a larger national narrative of a rising power.
So what does this all mean for you, the learner? It means understanding that every headline, no matter how specific, contributes to a larger interwoven narrative. What truly stands out, I think, is that India's quest for Viksit Bharat by 2047 isn't just an economic goal. It's a comprehensive vision that permeates its foreign policy decisions, shapes its domestic political landscape, and even influences how it deals with public health crises and sensitive social controversies. Think about how these diverse threads weave together to paint a truly comprehensive picture of a nation redefining its place in the world, addressing its internal challenges while asserting its influence abroad.
This prompts a vital question, doesn't it? As India continues its rapid transformation and faces increasingly complex global challenges, what new frameworks, diplomatic strategies, or even surprising alliances might emerge to support its ambitious goals? Especially in critical areas like sustainable development, digital security, and crucially, maintaining social cohesion amidst rapid change.
A fantastic thought to mull over, and certainly something that will continue to evolve in the coming years. We hope this deep dive has provided you with clarity, context, and a lot to think about as you continue to follow India's remarkable journey. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and most importantly, keep learning.